And now for Chapter 10, On the Day the School Blew Up. This chapter is entitled The Beginning of Hard Times. "What'd you do there, Peter?" asked Harley, with a mouthful of peanut butter and jelly sandwich, some of it sliding down his shirt. "Harley, that's gross," scolded Chandra, who was sitting next to me across from Harley. "Why don't you chew your food before talking?" Harley smiled, chewed his food delicately, and then responded, "Why don't you sit somewhere else? You're going to give me indigestion." Chandra made a face at him and then turned to me. "Ugh, do you eat with him every week?" Chandra wasn't the only new person having lunch with Harley and me. The entire class surrounded us as soon as we got to the cafeteria, and then the kids in the other classes were very quiet at their tables so they could hear anything that was said. Only the sounds of chewing and slurping were heard. "Yes, Chandra, every week," I replied, "and who cares? And why are you so eager to eat with us?" Chandra laughed a fake laugh. "Oh, come on, Peter, as if you didn't know." "Yeah, Peter Paul," chimed Naomi. "There's only one reason I would brave your disgusting nature, and that reason happened yesterday." Everyone nodded and mumbled their approval. I had been afraid that was why they were eating with me. "Which brings me back to the original question," said Harley. "What are you going to do?" I took a bite of my sandwich and then took a long drink of milk, eyeing each of my classmates. I cleared my throat. "I'm going to do the only thing I can do," I said. What's that, Peter?" asked Gretchen, who was sitting next to Harley. "Fail!" said a poisonous voice from the far end of the table. It belonged to Lucas Snodgrass, who was glaring daggers at me. "The only thing Peter Paul Pappenfuss knows how to do is fail. Think about it. Who remembers Professor Pappenfuss from last week and all his learned answers?" A few people snickered, which only encouraged Lucas. You hear people laughing, Peter? You'd better get used to it, because when you mess up, it will be in front of a whole lot more people than this." "Blow it out your ears, Snodgrass," snapped Harley. "You're just jealous." Lucas narrowed his eyes. "Whatever," he replied sharply and stormed off to throw the remnants of his lunch away. "He does have a point," said Big Calvin, who was sitting on the other side of Harley. "I mean, you're not the best student in the class. How do you expect to compete?" I sighed. "Well, for one thing, thanks to Principal Purvis, he turned my detentions into tutoring sessions with Miss Witherspoon." There was a collective groan of sympathy. "Tough break," said Melissa, packing up her cowgirl lunchbox. "Yeah, Pete, that's too bad," echoed Jennifer. "At least it's almost time for recess." This was true, and it offered me some comfort as I got up and took my lunch tray to the trash. As I turned around to go back to my seat, a large group of second graders started chanting, "Peter's gonna fail! Peter's gonna fail!" And sitting quietly at the end of their table was Snodgrass, with a malicious grin on his face. Mr. Farnsworth, the second grade teacher, managed to swiftly calm his students down. But the damage was done. Although most of my classmates sympathized with me, no one argued Lucas's point. They all thought I was going to fail, and apparently so did the second graders. I was now angry and depressed, and not even recess was going to help. No doubt this was what my life was going to be like until the end of the stupid contest. This was not worth $10,000. My second tutoring session began with Miss Witherspoon pointing out that we had better start with my weakest area, math. I was afraid she'd say that. So for the next 2 hours, yes, you heard correctly, 2 stinking hours, I was subjected to torture that included timed worksheets, finding the multiples of various numbers, and playing a dumb game on the chalkboard called Find the Missing Number, which meant me staring at a long division problem that was missing a number until Miss Witherspoon finally gave up and told me the answer. After I began developing a nervous tic, after seeing so many numbers, Miss Witherspoon changed pace a bit. "Okay, Peter, I think we've had about enough of numbers for today. Why don't we move on to story problems, something you might find a little more practical?" As soon as I looked at the first story problem, which had to do with Somebody having apples and wanting to divide them among their friends, only to have one of their friends end up cutting an apple and sharing it with more friends? I knew these were not going to be practical. I sometimes wonder if anything in the textbook is. I managed to slug through 5 of them before Dad showed up to take me home. "How'd it go today, sport?" asked Dad. "I hate math," I muttered, picking up my backpack. Miss Witherspoon smiled and walked over to us. "Peter participated very well today. I think we're off to a good start." "So, he's not as bad at math as he thinks he is, hey?" I shook my head. "Dad," she said, "I participated well. She didn't say I scored well." "Oh, well, it's the start, right, Miss Witherspoon?" She smiled weakly. "That's right, Pastor. Now about his homework." "I have to do more?" I couldn't believe it. Not only was my afternoon already used up, but this crazy woman was trying to snatch away my evening. This is nuts. How am I supposed to have a normal life if all I do is homework? "Peter, calm down. It isn't that much," soothed Mrs. Witherspoon. "It will only take about 30 minutes. I think you'll live. And as soon as you start to understand how these math problems work, you can stop." "Right," I snorted, "until we begin a new subject." "He'll do it," said Dad, putting a gentle but firm hand on my shoulder. "We're grateful for your help in getting Peter ready for this contest. It means a lot. I know being a new teacher is tough, and to have to do extra tutoring as well must be stressful." Thank you, Pastor Pappenfuss." Dad nodded, then tapped me on the shoulder. "All right, Peter, let's go. There's a few moments of daylight left before supper, and I'll bet you could stretch those legs of yours with a little football." I smiled. Football sounded good. However, I seriously wondered if running away not coming back until the contest was over would be a better way to stretch my legs. After a supper of macaroni and real cheese, for which I was grateful, I headed up to my room to work on my math. As I climbed the stairs, I heard the phone ring and Mom answer it. "Hello?" "Hi, Harley." "Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I see. Well, I'm sorry, Harley, but he has a lot of homework to do tonight." "Yes." "Okay, have fun." Against my better judgment, I asked what Harley wanted. "Honey, I think you should just focus on your homework." "Oh, so now I can't even know what I'm missing? Come on, Mom." "Very well. The O'Briens are going to that little place on the west side of town with the go-karts, batting cages, and mini golf." I felt sick and angry at the same time. "That sucks," I muttered, my word choice not lost on my mother. "Peter Paul Pappenfuss, I hope you didn't just say what I think you said. Otherwise, you won't get to go anywhere, even after the contest. Do you understand?" I grunted. "Now get up to your room, young man, and finish that homework, and maybe you'll have a little free time." "Oh, goody," I said. "A little free time to brush my teeth and go to the bathroom before bed." I made my way to my room and sat at my desk with my head in my hands. It wasn't long before her royal stupidness was standing in the doorway. All through supper, I had to listen to Miss Perfect tell us about all the fun she and her dumb friends had after school at the playground in our neighborhood. Now standing in the doorway, after she had monopolized the supper conversation, telling us about all the sliding, swinging, and silliness she had participated in, she had the gall to ask, "So, what did you do this afternoon, Peter, little brat?" "What?" I snapped without looking in her direction. She said nothing but walked over to my desk and peeked at my math assignments. "Story problems?" she asked. "Yes," I replied, "and if you ask me, the real problem has nothing to do with numbers. The problem is that they are stupid stories. I don't give a balloon's elbow how many sugar plums Sally bought at Carl's Bakery or which one of her blockhead friends she gave the most to. I mean, if I was supposed to find out which of the sugar plums caused fatal food poisoning of Sally's friends, then that might be a little more interesting." Mary nodded. "I see," she sighed. "You know, Peter, I think this situation requires prayer." She bowed her head as I sat at my desk, stunned. Was she really going to pray for me? Did she feel bad at all? Did she care? "Dear Lord," she began, "you know what we're all going through, and you know Peter isn't the best student. I just pray that our school won't look too dumb no matter how bad Peter does. Our school isn't as big as some, and so it's really important because we can't afford embarrassment. And on she went. How am I supposed to study with her going on like this? I looked at my heavy math textbook. It probably cost a lot of money and was intended for someone to make good use of it. And since I couldn't concentrate with the little imp praying about my inevitable failure, I closed the book. Just before she said amen, while her eyes were still closed, I whacked her with it. I spent the next 30 minutes in a timeout while Mom iced Mary's forehead. Timeout consists of sitting on a kitchen stool while facing a corner located in the kitchen. It's not the most exciting time in the world, but at least I got out of a half an hour of math. However, as I contemplated what I felt was a justified act of violence, I realized that this was only day 2 of my academic training and that I was already starting to crack. This is going to be a lot harder than I thought, I told myself. And I bet somewhere, in some dark, dark place, Principal Purvis is laughing.